You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? It's producer Kyle. How's it going? T-shirts coming soon, by the way, of What's Up the Internet. I'm very excited for that. This is In Stores This Week, where we talk about new books that are in stores this week. And I always assign it to myself to do the cold open to this show, even though most weeks I have no preparation and don't think about the cold open until I start talking. So Dan just reminded me that good football starts this weekend, which is like in 2 days, because I think there's a Thursday night game this week. And I'm so relieved for the people who make chicken wings and the people who distribute chicken wings and chicken wing sauces that their long national nightmare is over and they could finally return to normal business of feeding me. If you're a chicken, I'm sorry. This is In Stores This Week.
So I just had an idea for a cold open.
Are you going to tell a joke that no one gets?
Charlie Chaplin got it. No, I was going to say we should do that I Could Be Brown song, but each one of us taking a different part.
This song is called Grace Kelly. It's by a singer called Micah.
I know both those things, but everybody on the internet knows it as I Can Be Brown.
Do you want to be like Grace Kelly, Dan?
Dead?
All her looks are too sad.
Right.
The actual
also, if any of us were even remotely as famous as Grace Kelly was at her least famous, we would all be incredibly happy. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. Fair enough.
The dead part's just details. Welcome to In Stores This Week, everybody. I'm Kyle. That's Jay, and Dan is below us. We're here to talk. Well, that's because that's the order I clicked on the things. We are here to talk about books that are in stores this week, and one book that we've been talking about now for what feels like 2.5 years. And I've only known Dan like 18 months. So.
I wrote it in 2019, so
right. Feels like we've been talking about it forever.
Yes.
But we'll talk about it some more today. Yep. Also, the Ninja Turtles. The Ninja Turtles.
Turtle.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go Ninja, go. We're just gonna. Ooh, I was gonna say, let's just jump right into it because we do have a bunch of books this week. A few more than we've had the last couple of weeks, so we'll jump right into it. But I'm sure we'll digress multiple times and, at some point have to like reconvene our thoughts and things. So I will tell you, there were a number of books this week that I read, don't remember having read, tried to skim back through again and went, oh God, I know I read this, but I don't want to read it again. So we're just going to start with one of those, which is New America, Book 2. Did we read Book 1?
I don't remember reading Book 1.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe that would make the book make sense.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I kind of gave me that, and it might help because I read it right after 007. It kind of gave me like the American James Bond feel, and I like the espionage. And now I'm curious to go back and try to find if we did get Book 1 or get a hold of Book 1, because I kind of enjoyed it. There's something there. It's got a good kind of an espionage thing going on. And the little twist at the end was like, oh. So, yeah, no, I'm good with this one.
Yep. Same. I mean, this is Book 2. I don't remember reading a Book 1. I'd like to, but I don't feel that it's a necessity. Like, you could have just said, hey, this is New America. I wouldn't have known the difference between if it was a book 1 or book 2, just that it says it up there. I, surprised. I liked it, like I do most every other book. But I did have 2 small nitpicks though, just really small ones. One, without spoiling it, where Wyatt finds his brother, does that mean he knew the whole time the person of interest? Is my first question. Actually, that's the only question, because the other thing that I found was there's a spelling error. Just one spelling error. I picked it out. That's all I could find wrong with this book for me.
There was a lot wrong with this book for me. And I will say that, like, there were several books this week that I think were probably very good, that it's just like, oh, it's another one of this book this week. And it hit me a little harder this week than it sometimes does. And like Dan and I, and we've talked about it on this show, like sometimes I'm like, yay, more post-apocalyptic books, more zombie, whatever. Like, I don't mind them. But this week, for whatever reason, the spy kind of, thriller, like there was a lot of it, and it was just like, there's too much. So this book, and I read it late in the list. Like, I had read 007 before I read this. I had read Ninjets before I read this. I had read Survival Street before I read this. Like, this was one of the last books I looked at, and it just didn't hold up, so I didn't really like it. That being said, it was probably a very good book, and it just got crushed by the weight of the other things, right? Highball number 1 from Ahoy. Jay just had a big deep sigh, so I'll let Jay go first.
Okay. Ahoy has been very hit or miss with me, and I just was not into this one. I mean, strangely enough, I think it has something to do with the fact that there is such a thing as too much swearing. And
disagree.
Don't get me wrong. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I swear all the time. But 90% of this book's dialogue feels like it's swear words. And, it wasn't funny. It wasn't edgy. And I say no offense, but I'm going to offend somebody. It was lazy. The writing felt lazy just because every other word was a curse word. I just wasn't the biggest fan of this one.
I don't think there's such a thing as too many curse words. Mainly because I think if this book had been all curse words, it would have been more readable. Look, Ahoy, you said it right. Ahoy has been hit or miss, and more miss than hit. There are books like Guilt that I thought were great. And then there are most of the books we get from Ahoy that I think are the kind of stuff I would come up with if I was on cocaine and LSD at the same time. And this is that. I get it. It's something different. It's a unique concept, but it wasn't well executed. It wasn't well thought out. I would like to see this book attempted again, maybe with an editor who, could kind of give it some better shape, I guess. It has the makings, but it's like, to me, it felt like they took all the ingredients of a good book, threw them into a pot, stirred it up, and was like, okay, you have a soup now. And they didn't bother to cook anything. So
I'm going to disagree with you guys.
Wow.
I actually liked this book. It reminded me of Captain Stern from Heavy Metal. It felt like a book that easily would have fit into a Heavy Metal magazine. And just thought it was fun and silly, I liked the setup, and it wasn't great, but I've been reading so much over the top, over dramatic crap for the last few weeks. This was something different. It was not trying to take itself too seriously, and I had fun with it. And you talked about the fact that they should about getting an editor. It's written by Stuart Moore, former editor at Marvel Comics.
Right. And that's kind of one of those things. That's why when I saw that, I'm going, this should be better.
I thought it was.
Right.
I thought it was good.
And when you put it in that kind of context, that makes a lot of sense. To me, it just looked like maybe they needed someone like a Patton Oswalt or a Brian Posehn or a Jerry Duggan to kind of just go over and maybe smooth out the jokes, smooth out those kind of comedic beats that Stuart Moore may just not have had the comedic chops to execute the way he wanted. Like it needed a little something. Like I said, like I used the soup analogy. It's, it'd be like, I don't know. It's like not putting salt in your soup or something. It just needed a little something to get better. But the end result was just unsatisfying, and I disliked it.
Yeah, I can tell that we're going to have a lot of different disagreements this week because my list, from what the order you put over there, would be very different.
I literally just put them in the order that I read them.
Oh, okay.
With the exception of the New America, because that was that I forgot to download the cover, so I just kind of slapped it in right before we got ready to do the show.
Oh, okay.
Sabrina, number 1. Sabrina, the Teenage Witch Anniversary Spectacular. Know what you're getting when you get Archie books, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of this book, but it's just an Archie book. It's not, again, it's not the highbrow, top of the line comic book. It's Sabrina. It's Archie. And it isn't, I would say this is cartoon Sabrina, not TV Sabrina, which I think would be better served now if they focus more on like the thrilling adventures of Sabrina kind of character instead of kind of goofy, spooky Sabrina.
I have 3 thoughts on this book. I liked the first story, introducing the new character. I like the fact that on each of the reprint stories, they tell you specifically at the bottom of the first page of each story when it was reprinted, so you could tell, oh, this came out right around the time I was born, type of thing. And the third thing is there was one particular story where she got stuck in a vacuum cleaner, and all I could think of is that perhaps the writer was working out some ideas in his mind that he probably shouldn't have put in a kid's book.
Correct.
I don't have, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say on this one. It was just cheesy. I mean, but in a good way. It was a very nice palate cleanser to things that we usually read. It's nice to throw one of these kind of books in there from some of the dark stuff that we end up going through. I watched the show and the cartoon when I was younger, and I know there was a Netflix series, but I never watched that. But yeah, I mean, it's Sabrina and Archie, just like Kyle said. I mean, you know what you're gonna get.
All right. Ninjets, number 1 from Dynamite. I have to say, I was very excited for this book. I had liked Ninjets when it had happened in the past. This is one of those books that I think I need to reread when I'm not in a mood, because it didn't feel like the Ninjets I had known. And it didn't even feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson. It felt like it was kind of like a, hey, can you write this story? And Philip Kennedy Johnson just put his name on it. It didn't feel like his writing. So to me, it's one of those that I just probably need to read it with a clearer mind. But everything in it seems like the kind of stuff I'll be into.
This
No,
one.
wait. There's a reason. There is a reason it didn't feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson.
It's not?
No, because it's Fred Van Lente.
That makes more sense.
Okay. Go
Come
ahead.
back to me.
This one could be interesting. I mean, I've never read this before. I thought this was like a brand new thing. It kind of feels like Hunger Games for assassins.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of more interested right now in just seeing on who turns on each other when the team aspect of this goes haywire, because you only have 3 of those diplomas or contracts or whatever it is, and you do have like a team of 4 people that are going around, and they were more until one of them is wounded and gets straight up murked by the person she was with. So I'm actually excited to see more of that in a morbid kind of way. But I think if done right, this could be a lot of fun.
There was nothing in this book that got my attention. Good luck. God bless. Move on. Nothing. Just couldn't care less about it.
Dan and I are on the same page here, but I do need to reread it, not thinking that I have the wrong writer in mind. So,
yeah, I tried to read it, but didn't click for me.
All right, we'll move on to another book that I thought I was going to love, that I just kind of felt like, oh, about.
You read both parts, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got halfway through and went, that's short. Oh, nope, there's more. I'm going to jump on this one because I actually liked it. I thought it was some interesting start to stories. There's not a lot there, but I like the magic house. That's definitely not a magic house. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting start. It seemed weird, though, they would do 2 short stories that are the start of a series. You know? So it's an anthology book, but it's just... But there was enough in it that made me go, oh, okay. I don't know what you're doing here, but I'm kind of curious. So it just had enough hooks that made me go, okay. I don't know if I would buy this one on my own, but if it, number 2 pops up in our list, I'm going to read it, see what it is.
Yeah. Surprise again, I liked it too. But this really felt to me like Tales from the Crypt. Not the edited ones I had to watch on Fox at 11 p.m. on Saturday when I was a kid, but like the HBO version. It's even done 2 segments. It's done in 2 segments, and you even have an over-the-top host making puns. Like, this book just reminded me of that show when I was a kid. I do feel, however, that for the payoff for both of these segments, for me, just isn't there. Like, we get Zenoscope books sometimes they're like 64 pages. I honestly think this book could have benefited from being just 30, 32 pages. I don't know how the counts usually work in comics, to be honest with you. But just enough to give both stories just a little bit more oomph. That being said, I did enjoy it, and Dan, I'm with you on if there's another one, I would definitely read it.
So there are at least 2 more issues in this series.
Cool.
Problem is that for issues 2 and 3, the solicitation is identical. So there's no way of knowing. Also, just so you know, if you're watching this is a flip comic. So you read half of it and you flip it over and read the other half.
Wouldn't it be cool if while we were reading on the PDF, we then had to turn our monitors over?
My iPad would have just auto-corrected, like it would have freaked out. It felt like we need to put out a book. I don't have a whole book idea. We'll just take 2 book ideas and put them in one.
It sounds to me like
awesome, great. They were great ideas.
I think Colin is doing the old show that Jay was talking about.
Right. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, again, but it didn't feel like complete thoughts to me. And again, if they continue the same strategy and they do complete the stories, that's fine. But I felt like instead of doing 2 half issues here, do 1 whole issue, then in the next Shock Shop book, do a different story, and then the next one do a different story. Is how I would have done it, rather than almost like Silver Coin, where they're all written by different people, but the art's all the same. Maybe do something like that with this. So, all right, the next book has entirely too many boobs for my taste. Mostly,
how could there ever be too many boobs?
I was gonna say.
I mean, we got 3 on this show,
right? I was gonna say mostly just the one who wrote it. Heyo. Dan, do you want to do the work on your own book?
No, you guys can talk about it. I'm just gonna cover my face.
This book is really good, y'all. Like, and I don't just say that because I'm on the show with Dan. We backed the Kickstarter. We were super excited for it. As soon as that book showed up, I think I actually unboxed it on a previous episode of In Stores this week. Read it that same night. Loved it. Loved it. It is so good. You get a chance. I think Ed Weird earlier said he tried to get it from Amazon, but this says it wasn't coming out till the 20th.
Yeah, it's probably they haven't got their shipment yet, so they're.
Yeah, I mean, look. How do I say this without sounding braggadocious or pretentious?
You can't.
There's a lot of tits in this book, y'all. But not so many that it would feel unreasonable, as is sometimes the case in comic books. Despite the exaggerated nature of the way I'm putting this book over, it's a very real kind of look at the world that the characters in this book inhabit, right? If you've ever met anybody who's been a model of any kind, they've lived kind of what these characters are living. If you've ever been a photographer or videographer of any kind, you've kind of been in this world a little bit. And so if you take 2 people and enmesh them together in a kind of, hyper focused version of that world, which isn't exactly, which isn't an exaggeration of the real life thing, right? Like, that is a very hyper fixated, hyper focused world that people live in. And it's not, Dan doesn't make it gratuitous. He doesn't make it necessarily too much. It just is kind of what it is. And I think it's a good way to tell a story like this, because in the wrong hands, this book would be porn. Right? It just would be. But what Dan did is found a way to still have that eroticism and that kind of sexual overtone that exists in these relationships and in the world of modeling and photography and stuff, without being like, hey, you want to see a boob? Which he could have did. So I think it works out well. All right, Star Trek 400.
Make it show. I really like the first story. That's the one that hooked me. Because by the end of it, you're like, oh, it's not Kirk. I don't know, maybe if you guys know. I thought it was Kirk talking in the first episode, or the first story. But I like that one. I like the one Will Wheaton wrote.
I like the one the second one, the Declan Shelby one with the Cardassians.
That was good too.
Yep.
Little Chief O'Brien love.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit last week. Like, I'm not a Star Trek guy.
Right.
I'm a Star Wars Battlestar guy. But these were fun little, and they were short enough that they could keep my attention span around characters that I have no connection to. So I don't
know if they needed 400 covers to go with the 400th anniversary.
Oh.
Because the only thing that beat the number of covers on this book is the number of covers on TMNT.
Yeah. I will say that there are A through V plus store exclusives on Ninjets.
Wow.
Yeah, but they don't put them in the preview reader or the review copy.
True, but like if we're going to talk about oversaturation of covers, we need to call everybody.
No, I'm just talking about what I have to scroll through.
Oh, sure, absolutely. If we could give one note to every other company, don't put all your variant covers in your PDFs.
Yeah, they don't need them. We don't need them.
Nope.
No.
This is one of two books that I just skimmed through, but I specifically read Soldier On just because Seth DeMoose was on Talking Shop with Kyle the other day. I really enjoyed the art in that one, and I really liked the story. It's an O'Brien story to me, not a Cardassian story, because I like O'Brien.
Yeah.
But that short period of time that the story was told in, though, I was like, it did leave me. I wanted more of it. Like, I know they were just shorts, but I was like, this story kind of grabbed me. I would like to hear more of this one. Meanwhile was kind of funny to me. I like the fact that they used Simon Pegg from the newer Star Trek movies in that one.
Yeah.
And then the last one I think I looked at was Starfleeter, and that was just kind of like an adorable friendship story. It was cool to see different people's takes on Star Trek and what they could come up with, and I'll definitely go back and reread this one.
I'll go first. With the exception of the scene, with all the double O's, this book didn't feel like a great sequel to the first issue. To me. Now, it did feel like a good second scene in a film or a story. So, like, I wanted to know more about what happened at the end of the first issue immediately during this issue, and it didn't happen. It took it a few minutes to tie it all together. But overall, this has been my favorite James Bond story that doesn't have Sean Connery in it. Like, of all the movies, of all the books, of everything I've read, this has been my favorite thus far. It didn't feel like it started this book at the same temperature the last book ended.
I told Jay when I signed on earlier for the other show, I said, there is a scene in this book that I didn't know I needed until I saw it. And that's the one you mentioned, them dealing with the fallen 00. And just, I thought that scene was amazing. This is some of the best James Bond stuff Dynamite has put out. And I like the stuff Dynamite has put out. The Warren Ellis stuff, the Ben Piercy stuff. To me, it's all been really good stuff. This is top notch. This is what I called great on my earlier show. And I'm sticking with it because I'm not 100% sold on the art. I could use a little more defined art. But even that kind of disappears within like a page or two. You know, it's like to me, I get into it pretty quickly. And yeah, I'm totally in on this book. This is great.
And I thought this was a great second issue. It still has my attention, and this book has the potential to be one of my favorite Dynamite books I've ever read. The writing is well done. I feel like the art actually fits with the story. That's just me, though. We spent a chunk of this issue, reminiscing and learning a little bit more about 003 and what she was actually doing. And I wasn't bored one bit. I enjoyed that. So, yeah, I can't wait to keep reading more of this. And as soon as this thing is ready for trade, I'm just going to go pick up this trade.
Dan, maybe you can answer this question for me. And it's something that's always bothered me about the James Bond universe.
Okay.
James Bond is 007.
Yes.
You would assume that there are at least 001 through 009.
Okay.
If there's a 10th agent, are they 010 or are they 0010?
Well, first thing, the O's are not zeros. They are the letter O.
Okay, sure. But I'm saying, do you drop an O?
I don't think there is a 10th agent. There's a limited number.
So my dream of someday getting a book for 0069 is just out the window?
Yeah.
Maybe Ahoy can do it.
I was going to say, unless it's a parody comic. I mean,
it's the same reason why baseball doesn't suddenly go, we've retired so many numbers. Bill Jackson here is now number 114.
It's true. By the way, I saw there was a TikTok guy posted. They were at the Red Sox stadium, and they were explaining about why the number 42 was retired. And it was this guy explaining to his girlfriend that number 42 was retired because of Mariano Rivera.
Yes.
And that it was blue because he didn't play for the Red Sox. He played for the Yankees, and their colors are blue. And the guy who posted the TikTok goes, I've never wanted to stand up and slap someone across the face as hard as I do right in this moment.
Yep.
All right. This is a book I thought we should definitely continue reading. Is why I texted Dan late last night going, hey, did we get this book? A lot of people missed on this book when it first came out, when issue 1 came out. But we read it, and I'm super glad we did. And now I'm super glad we read issue 2.
Mine's the shortest. I'll go first. Yup, still love it. This book is so fun, and I was super excited when I saw it got added to the list. It works for me. There's a message there, but it doesn't feel like it's overly preachy. It's more super duper satirical. It's a fun book. If you haven't read it, give it a shot. Give it a shot. It's hilarious to me. That's all I got for this one. It'll get repetitive if I keep going.
My mama told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
No.
Really?
Yeah, I'm out. This book's got nothing for me.
Even the Charlton Heston robot.
Yep.
Did not sell it for you.
No, it didn't. It's just so. It's satiring things right now that we're dealing with, and it doesn't come across as funny to me. It's just a reminder of how screwed up we are, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm looking at this book like, no, and then no. If for me, the Muppets and Sesame Street are escapism and teaching children and combining them with the BS that's going on in the real world right now. I'm out.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair, if there is a knock on this book, it's that, right? Like for me, the one knock this book has is that it doesn't let you leave the reality that is existence the way many comic books normally do. We're talking about something that is not that far-fetched in the current kind of climate of the world. The part that makes it far-fetched is that, puppets operate on their own. That puppets are living things. That's the part that makes it far-fetched, which is can be tough if that's your kind of the way you approach this. I love it because if we don't laugh at the absurdity of the situation we find ourselves in by somehow finding a more absurd version of it, then we don't get to laugh.
And that's why the e-cake was funny. It's all about the absurdity.
I laughed even harder when you explained the joke afterwards.
Dan, that joke's not just a way Homer. It's a probably 10 years from now. I'll get it. I'll be laying in bed 10 years from now and go, oh my God, I finally get it.
Oh,
but no, it's this is one of those things that it's just every story that sets up the action sequences of this book is something that we're living in a small way. And that we hope doesn't become a big way. And then conversely, the absurdity of the action sequences where they're having to question how much stuffing do you have to shoot out of a hippopotamus puppet to kill it, is where the comedy is found for me. So I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a great way to laugh at some very serious topics. But again, like Dan said, if you are looking to escape from the darkness, this isn't that book. All right. I have to click on the right thing. There we go.
I'll go ahead and take this one. I'll close this out on this one.
Turtle.
So after 24 pages of covers, and don't get me wrong, there were some very awesome covers. They really were. Finally got to the story. This was another one that I skimmed, but what I read, I really liked. This will be one that I'm going to go back in my own time and read it because I've really been enjoying these Turtles books. I did get to a certain part and read it, and it broke me a little bit. And usually nowadays, without spoiling it, father-son moments hit me differently than they used to. So when I got to this part, I was just, it kind of wrecked me a little bit. But yeah, I want to go back and read this one because it was, from what I read, it was really good. So.
Again, I'm not the biggest turtle guy because I never took them seriously. They were always the jokey cartoon or the bad TV movie or the bad movie. They were a spin-off of a Daredevil, a parody of the Daredevil origin. But this series is actually getting me to kind of care about these characters again. And I think part of it is we've gotten away from the whole big city full of mutants and all that. So all the stuff that I don't know and I don't have the 130 some odd issue backstory on, don't have to worry about that. I'm just focused on these 5 turtles and their former enemy trying to come together to stop a bigger threat. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying them getting to understand themselves better and each other better and their enemy better, which is just it's an interesting take on it. So I'm in so far.
I said to someone this morning after I read this book that the current run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm going to take Last Ronin out of the equation only because Last Ronin has to exist in its own world, because it's not current storyline, right? It may be canon, but it's canon in the future. Is the best main TMNT storyline that they've had in 5-6 years. Now, like, you also have to take out like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Batman stuff that they did, because that's not main Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles storyline, right? Like, they've had some of these great little mini series that are off over here, and I think Dan's right. It's because they can get away from Mutant Village and some of these, the Mutant Bomb, and you know, you don't have the Mutanimals there, and all these other kind of things that do so often drag down the storytelling. I will never be entirely comfortable with the Turtles and Shredder being pals. Like, that's just weird to me. But in a sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation, it does make sense. And there was always a very strong respect between Splinter and Shredder. They didn't like each other, but they respected each other. So I like that as well. The thing about this story is, to me, it feels like this issue is, you know, the montage in the 80s movie where you're hearing the best around. You know, it's, this is how you summon this thing, and this is how you do this thing, and, you know, and it's like wax on, wax off. You know, and, you know, there's a Kenny Loggins song or something in the background. I don't know. Right. Right. Something with a real good bass line. I'm very excited to come to the end of that and to watch all of this get thrown into a battle with the Rat King. I also remember from the Armageddon game preludes that Baxter Stockman is more involved. And I love Baxter Stockman, so I'm very interested in seeing how Baxter Stockman plays into all of this. And, you know, it just... The Turtles have been my favorite thing since as long as I can remember. And so to see them really getting this great story all these years later, and have as many people caring about the Turtles being relevant as is evidenced by the number of variant covers. And, you know, because if there wasn't a market for them, they wouldn't make them.
Yeah.
Like, is really great and really makes my heart happy. So, all right. I got to stop clicking on the wrong thing, guys. There you go.
This is the end.
All right. Well, if you are out looking for any of the books that we've talked about, or books that we haven't talked about because we didn't get to read them, head over to comicshoplocator.com to find a local comic book shop nearby to you. I had some friends who were in the Cincinnati area this weekend. They used Comic Shop Locator to find The Rockin' Rooster is the name of a comic shop down there, as well as Up, Up, and Away. Shout out to my buddy Andrew, who, if my friends would have just asked me, I would have sent them there. So they found some great stores in the Cincinnati area to visit. If you are traveling or you just need a local comic shop, comicshoplocator.com. Type in the area code where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops. Make sure you call them before you go in. Make sure that their hours are right and that kind of stuff. Make sure you stop. Make sure you check out Karma, because it will make Dan happy. And you know, Dan's surly when he's not happy. So I'm surly all the time.
Yeah.
Happy, sad, indifferent, surly. So
he's Beardy McSurly.
Beardy McSurly pants, sir.
I don't want to know what beard you have in your pants.
Wow.
All right. This comes from a guy who wrote a book that I described as maybe a little too booby for my taste. So we will see everybody next week on In Stores This Week. For Dan and Jay, I've been Kyle. Buy comics, everybody.